istatement esethulwe President Emmerson Mnangagwa ukuthi usibona kanjani lesi statement?
What I can say is that I'm glad that you are a knowledge worker and an information producer. You've been able right from the beginning to pick up the link that the present statement that Emmerson Mnangagwa has uttered is a direct quotation from the Gugurahundi toolkit. This is not the first time he has said this. He said it in the thickness of the genocide, that victims must toe the line or else their lives are going to be shortened. And this announces to even those that have been denying that the Gugurahundi genocide is a genocide that is in progress, that is still taking place, that is still happening, and whose perpetrators are still determined to silence, erase, and politically. It's a statement not to be listened to, understood the African region. And for the in response to you just now, I want to raise a voice of congratulation to individuals, civil society organizations, political parties that have been keeping the voice of the victims loud. It's not an accident that at last Emmerson Mnangagwa has come to respond to the struggles, to the voices of those that he has responded, that he has ventilated the truth that he thinks and that he believes, that he has come out from himself is a result of the struggles of the activists on the ground that have refused that Gugurahundi should be a silence issue, that it should be a closed chapter as Mnangagwa has wished. So let's count some victory there, that at last the monster has come out of his hole to say, I can hear, I've heard. Even these threats are not coming out of strength. They are coming out of guilt, out of weakness, and out of the fear of the genocides that they have for the victims. Thank you very much.
Okay, siyabonga Dr. Mpofu. Baba Mpofu, let me come back to you. Uma singabheka maybe sibuyele emuva kancane, maybe if ungachazela kancane ukuthi irole ahamba nayo ngegenocide yiphi kahle irole ahamba nayo? Baba Mpofu.
Ngiyabongeka baba, ngicela ukuqala ngokuthi ngisho kuvelile moyo ukuthi awakhuthaza amaqabane ukuthi khonokho kwenza uMnangagwa wagcina iphumela egcekeni njenge-Gugurahundist, wagcina phinda amagama akhe awakhulumayo kudala ukuthi bona bayenza impilo yama-victims ibe mfitshane, bayabopha, bayabulala, akazithandelanga, ukhutshwe emlindini kwesaba le-guilt. And konke lokho kungumsebenzi owenziwa ngamaqabane ebantwini phansi. In answering your question, Babungala, I also want to set one record straight, that it is a fallacy and a falsehood. United Nations says nations cannot pursue self-determination, and that nations cannot pursue remedial or secession. He is trying to circulate a primitive lie that nations under the United Nations cannot pursue remedial secession, and that nations cannot pursue self-determination. When nations have suffered genocide, persecution, marginalization, torture, genocide, like the Forgotten Nation has, they have the right under international law to rebel against an oppressive government, to pick up arms even and fight an oppressive government, to pursue their self-determination, and even to secede So Emerson Mnangagwa is practicing a falsehood in saying otherwise. So that record must be set straight, and no amount of genocidal thinking and genocidal intention is going to take away that right from the nations of the world that they've been victims of genocidal regimes. Right. The role that Emerson Mnangagwa played. There are several researchers that have come to the fore and published works that document the role that the Minister of State Security had in the genocide. One of such researchers was an experiential researcher who is Kelvin Woods, in his book, The Kelvin Woods Story. He discloses that the Minister of Security was responsible for the operations of the genocide and also supplying information to government on what was happening on the ground and what should have been done, what was supposed to be done on the ground operations in committing the genocide. And Kevin Woods states that one of the most evil operatives, implementers of the genocide was Emerson Mnangagwa, more than Robert Mugabe. There's also Professor Milestone in his very good book on Solomon Mujuru and the army in Zimbabwe, who actually discloses after his good research that Mnangagwa went on to falsify intelligence information, to politicize intelligence in order to justify and to incense the government into fully unleashing the 5th Brigade in Matabele and the weekends. So if anything, based on our research information, evidence, observations, arguments, and conclusions, the Kukura-Undi genocide lies squarely and straight in the hands of Emerson Mnangagwa. Can I utilize this minute that you have given me to clarify something, Gala? We need to establish Babundofu Nomoyo in this platform. Like, who is speaking when Mnangagwa speaks? What is the subject? And from what positionality and what locus of enunciation is he speaking? It's important to establish the same. One, we have a perpetrator of the Kukura-Undi genocide speaking. So his statements must be understood exactly from that location, that is a perpetrator speaking, is a victimizer speaking. Second, we have a denialist speaking. This is a perpetrator that is denying that there was ever a genocide, and that genocide has got effects, and that genocide continues by other means. Third, squarely and fairly, we have a genocidist speaking. And we have a leader that is in power through force and through fraud. This is a person that has come to power through force and fraud. And therefore, fifth, that is an illegitimate leader who is in power through a coup, whose reputation includes a genocide, mass murder, crimes against humanity. And this individual is suffering guilt which is accompanied by fear. Where the Bible says that the guilty are afraid, they even run when no one pursues them. But in this case, the victims of Kukura-Undi are pursuing the victimizers. They are not sleeping, they are not keeping quiet, they are not allowing the chapter of Kukura-Undi in Zimbabwe district to be erased. So he is very much afraid. And who else is speaking in Emerson Mnangagwa? This is a native colonialist. Himself, his family, his friends, that include Kutakwashe Takwire, have looted 15 billion on record of Zimbabwe's diamond. They continue to loot the gold, to smuggle minerals, and to monopolize the economy. Them, their families, and their friends have monopolized the economy at the expense of civil servants. at the expense of soldiers, police officers, teachers, nurses, doctors, peasants, and other workers in Zimbabwe that continue to be immiserated. So Kukuraundi is a crime against humanity, like what Dr. Mpofu was saying, must be understood at that scale and that level. That is not the problem of Mnangagwa and the people of Matabele. It's a crime against humanity that is part of the genocide that took place. And all Zimbabweans, political parties, civil society organizations, civil servants, the population at large must take Kukuraundi as their problem, because Kukuraundi continues to happen against them. Disappearances, tortures, arrests, the of rallies, the violations that are taking place. All Zimbabweans, all human beings are candidates for Kukuraundi as long as we allow genocides to continue to insist on this. Native colonialists that have monopolized the economy and the quality of the country. And I think time is close that enough will be enough. Thank you.
Siyabonga Baba Mpofu. Dr. Mpofu, some people have said that Zimbabwe will not commit another genocide in our lifetime. Do you think that statement is accurate?
Engakutsho ukuthi the genocide happened and continues to happen by other means. But before I go into the but, the people that committed genocide are determined to commit it again. The person who was speaking, who was threatening, has the powers and the means to arrest again, to torture again, and to kill again. Not basing it on the determination of the genocides, but on the determination of the victims. And the kind of world we're living in today, it would be suicidal of Emerson Mnangagwa to think that he can unleash a brigade again to go and annihilate the people of Matabele and the Biklas. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I was on the point that the perpetrators of the genocide are determined to continue perpetrating and committing that crime. But as Dr. Mpofu has just illustrated, they don't know what awaits them. The world has changed. The African region has changed. And the kind of victims that they anticipate, that they are envisaged, that they are looking at, are not the same victims. And people are not going to be sheep to track them. This time around, I think, as I said before, Mnangagwa will only fast track his own tragedy and that downfall if he tries that. But then, like what Dr. Mpofu has just been telling us, these people are killers. They continue to kill, just like they've been killing each other. Look at Parents Shield, that genocide, who didn't know in his life that he was going to die alone in a car, with his aides not there, with the government he was working for not there, and poison eating into his stomach. They are evil, demonic, diabolic, and satanic killers. Look at how they roasted Solomon Muchuru, a hero amongst them.
The statement that was uttered by the president, what will be its impact? Just as a standalone statement, how will it affect the people? And secondly, assuming that maybe he starts to carry out his threats clandestinely, what will be the impact on the Mnangagwa's movement? All right. And
I will begin where I ended, in that the genocides are determined to continue with the genocide. no doubt about it, ngababulali. Bheka le ndlela ababulalana ngayo, uShiri indlela abulewe ngayo, indlela umjuru abulawa ngayo, le ndlela abacontinue ngayo bepoisonana befakelana ekudleni bebulalana. So they are determined. And so should be the victims of Kukuraund. They should be determined to resist, to challenge ababulali labo. About the impact of that statement, I want to begin exactly at that point where the first impact of that statement is that Mnangagwa has been forced by fear and guilt to come out and speak the way he spoke, to come out and threaten, to come out and try and frighten, to come out and try and remind the victims of Kukuraund of the genocide, wishing that people will be scared into silence. I'm glad that uvelile uyasho lapho ukuthi akula muntu ozoba scared sokuqhubeka sisilwa. And the other impact is that even if they continue as Dr. Mpofu has observed, to operate clandestinely, eliminating, disappearing, assassinating, and killing people. Now that this statement has been made public, whatever events, whatever incidents, whatever accidents follow now, whatever will happen to these activists, Zimbabweans, the region of Africa, and the world will know that these events followed after the illegitimate and illegal state president had uttered these threats. And this threat was not the first. Just last week, he threatened chiefs that if there are any chiefs that will support activists that will do this, we are going to dethrone them. So it's a program. It's not an accident. It's a program to threaten, to frighten. And I insist analytically that the first person that is frightened is Mnangagwa himself. The first person that is threatened is Mnangagwa himself. The first person that is afraid is Mnangagwa himself. Never mind the bravado, the strong words, the hot air. This is a man who doesn't sleep because of fear of what will happen to him. This is a perpetrator who has killed people, and those people are haunting him. And I'm glad that the victims are not keeping quiet and are standing up to say, we will challenge you. And more energy and more power should be put into that. And Mnangagwa must not be guaranteed that ZANU-PF will remain with the monopoly of violence, the monopoly of killing, the monopoly of threatening. Mass murder. The victims of genocide are standing up and are saying, we are not forever going to be victims. He should know that and know it very well. Thank you.
Okay, what about the second part of the question?
Okay, if you can rehash it for me, please, Nkala Ngabonga.
Okay, no, I asked if he carries out his threats clandestinely, what will be the impact to the Toga's movement?
Yeah, maybe what we should do is to look at that question otherwise. What should be done? Definitely, these genocides, these criminals against humanity are going to do something about the energy and the power of the victims on the ground and the activists. The question maybe should be, Nkala, what should be done? So my assertion will be, as soon as you realize that colleagues and comrades are being eliminated clandestinely, they are disappearing, they are being poisoned, they are being arrested, what is it that the activists are going to do on the ground? And I'll go back to the beginning of my presentation today. Invoke international law, invoke your right to rebel, invoke your right to disobey illegal and illegitimate government, invoke your right to rebel, and invoke your right to be revolutionary and challenge a system. What these people are holding as their entitlement to power is that they went to war and fought the secular colonialist regime. What Abo Velile and others should hold as their claim to fame is to go out and fight a native colonial regime. They fought settlers, now you should fight native colonialists. So that's what should be done. People should not resign to the positionality of being victims. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cabanga ukuthi angikubuzanga but elifisa ukuthi likudlulise. Angiqale ngawe baba Mpofu.
Okay, kuyabongeka baba uNkala. Mhlawumbe umuntu angakutsho nje is that the clandestine activities that Dr Mpofu alluded to have already been taking place. I've said about the poisonings and other illicit and illegal activities that the Mnangagwa regime has been carrying it out. You remember the bombing of the plaques that were erected by communities in commemoration of their victims, their loved ones that died. The message that we should read, combining these clandestine activities and the statement that the president has made, is that all this effort that we see, the gathering of the chiefs, grouping civil society organizations that Mnangagwa is doing, and actually declaring that Kukuraundi should be discussed openly and that people should work towards a solution led by the chiefs. All that is the nonsensical, is pretending, is child's play, is trying to pull some wool over the eyes of the people. The true statement, the true standpoint that he holds is what he just said in that rally. So people should stop being used. The chiefs should stop being used. What Mnangagwa really believes is what he said in that rally. And as I said before, he did not say it because he is strong. He did not say it because he is powerful. He said it because he is guilty, because he is afraid. And let me deposit here. He's not only afraid of the victims of Kukuraundi genocide now, there are also internal issues. As an illegitimate leader that came through fraud and through force, he is standing on very slippery ground, actually standing on a straw. So we are looking at a pathetic but dangerous individual. A pathetic and a dangerous individual is very dangerous. But all the same, let everyone help him fast track himself to his tragic end, as I said. Thank you very much for this platform and the contributions that you have made, and the colleagues in this platform, Dr Mpofu Lobaba, Velile Moyo. Kuyabongeka kakhulu.
Siyabonga baba Mpofu.
Then with a small question that I needed to ask from maybe Baba Mpofu Lobaba Ndlovu, looking at the current situation and what is happening, and after those statements, what are any legal ways that as a nation we can seek for the sake of security, looking at the context of Zimbabwe and looking at the vulnerability of Abantu Bagiti? Is there any legal arrangement international from the international law that can be pursued to come up with a solution?
Baba Mpofu, umbuzo kababa uMoyo angazi noma liwuzwile.
Ngithemba ukuthi ubaba uNdlovu wendlale kahle impendulo yakhe ngama options akhona, especially that the legal efforts should start internally, and then a way must be found on how these legal efforts can be internationalized. But after showing that we have exhausted internal legal avenues that are available for seeking recourse, And let me say the most important thing maybe, Babu Moyo, is the continued, persistent, and consistent political activism, especially deploying the tool of communication that is available with the unfolding of the fourth industrial revolution now. Tell the world what is happening. Write letters to other governments and other political parties. Send messages to the World Wide Web so that these people cannot do anything without the international community, the regional community, and the national community knowing what they are doing. That's a very powerful weapon, which I think is the one that has compelled isambane ukuthi siphume emlindini sitting isambane. Lakanye ngoba uyakwazi emakhaya ma ungawuza umgodoyi ukhonkotha phandle ebusuku asiso sonke isikhathi ukuthi uyabukhonkotha ngoba ufuna ukuhlasela. Kwesinye isikhathi uyakhonkotha umgodoyi ngoba usesaba. So don't take lightly the fact that the genocidal president has come out to own his position as a genocidal president and promise further genocide. All that is a result of the struggles on the ground that you have fought, you and others in the collective. So increased, invigorated political activism is still one of the greatest weapons in the hands of the victims and the oppressed in the present. Thank you very much.
Siyabonga Baba Mpofu.
Sibongile kakhulu.
Asidibaneni njalo ngokuzayo.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.